This is Only the Strong Survive, a podcast powered by Kahn Media, where we dive deep into the world of business, leadership, and innovation. I'm your host, Dan Kahn, and I'm honored to have you join us today. So, let's get ready to learn some survival skills together. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Only the Strong Survive. Today, I'm really excited to take a closer look at AI. It's not just changing how businesses operate, it's changing how people communicate, how we make decisions, and how we lead teams and businesses. There's a lot of hype out there, there's a lot of fear out there, but the truth is this technology is already here. It's already having an impact on our society and on the workplace. We have a lot of questions, including how to actually use this with purpose in a sort of a strategic way. So I'm excited to get into it. My guest is Stephanie Nivinskus. She has been at the forefront of applying AI in practical ways that help companies work more efficiently, communicate more clearly, and build stronger relationships with people they serve. With nearly 30 years of experience in brand strategy and marketing, she has worked with global brands like Starbucks, the NFL, Sprint, as well as thousands of small businesses looking to gain an edge. She is a dual certified AI marketing consultant, a best-selling author, the founder of a woman and disability-owned agency that helps brands grow with clarity and intention. So Stephanie, first of all, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my joy. Thank you for having me.
I guess to kick things off, can you just give us a little bit of background about you and your career and kind of how you got into AI and why you're so passionate about it?
Absolutely. So I have been doing marketing for a very long time. Started my career in 95. I have a feeling maybe around the time you did, Dan.
Yep. Yep.
And I've been in marketing my entire career. I specialize in two areas, copywriting and strategic planning. 2.5 years ago, when ChatGPT became all the buzz, the world started to change. Our industry started to change. And people's desire for hiring a copywriter started to change. Like very quickly. I had clients that I had been serving for years. And all of a sudden, people were like, so what about this ChatGPT thing? What do you know about it? And it became very clear to me very quickly that I needed to get on this train real fast. And I didn't just need to get on the train. I needed to master the train. Like I needed to learn how to become the conductor. I made a huge pivot with my agency, took my staff off everything we were doing, and we redirected to all things AI, using it for the same marketing purposes we've always done, but learning how to use this as a tool that would make us faster, more efficient, more profitable, all the good things.
So how many people did you have on staff at that time?
I think I had 7 people at that time.
So with 7 people who were doing everything the old-fashioned way, and suddenly everyone's using AI, you either had way more capacity all of a sudden than you probably had work for, or you were able to trim staff, or everybody just got to take like super long lunch breaks. Like, how did that work?
No, actually the opposite happened. There was so much to learn and so much that we did not know. My mission for the whole team was we got to go fast, hard, fast, and go all in. So it actually became shorter breaks, less time off, things like that, because we were in a race.
When did the genesis of this happen in the beginning?
Well, ChatGPT became a thing November 30th of 2023. I spent about 6 weeks in a professional pity party, and then I made the decision to make the big pivot in January of 2020. What would that be? 2024.
Yeah, it's only 18 months ago, but that was early days. So, okay.
I'm off a year then because it's been 2.5 years.
Okay.
Sorry.
Got it.
Math isn't my thing.
Hey, you're probably an English major like me, right? So I don't know. Like I let my daughter do all my math for me, or ChatGPT now. So 2.5 years into this deal now, tell me what your business is today.
So today we're an AI-powered marketing consultancy. We really specialize at this point in helping companies integrate AI marketing tools into their day-to-day marketing operations for the same purpose that I originally had, to make them faster, to make them better, and to really allocate the hours that their human intelligence has on the job for the tasks that require human talent, and to give the busy work or the more redundant type tasks to AI, because that's what it does really, really well.
Let's kind of get into some basics here, especially because our listening audience, I think, probably has very mixed experience levels with LLMs and AI and even ChatGPT specifically. So when you talk about AI in business, what are you referring to? Like, what even is that?
Great question. And you're going to hear a lot of different definitions from different people. So AI stands for artificial intelligence. Honestly, it has been in development way longer than any of us thought it was. Like it literally has been almost 100 years that this has been in development. We've all been using AI way longer than any of us realized. You know, if you have an iPhone and you're using Siri, if you ever used Grammarly, there's so many examples. If you had an Alexa or you still have an Alexa, all of that is AI. If we were on Netflix picking a movie, recommendations are generated by AI.
So you're saying like the algorithms are sort of a version of AI. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, for sure. So that is kind of where it's all started for today's consumer. That's what we would recognize as the beginning for us. When ChatGPT released, then it became something that we as consumers were directly utilizing with knowledge, right? We were using it purposefully as opposed to as a bystander. AI is, in a nutshell, it is a machine that can do things that a human being can do. Not all the things well, but it can do things that a human being would do.
Got it. Okay. We're on similar timelines because it was about 2 years ago, we had an all hands meeting. It was about 2.5 years ago. So about the same time you made your big pivot, we had an all hands meeting here. And I had a creative director at the time. We did like a SWOT analysis for the company, right? And one of the things that came up as both an opportunity and a threat was this guy flagged AI. And I admit in public right here on this podcast, I had no idea what he was talking about. I'm like, what, like the Terminator? Like what? And he's like, yeah, no, not like the Terminator. Like this is like a business tool and it's conversational and it can help you with stuff. And I'm like, that's like what, like the little paperclip in Microsoft Word. Like, what are you talking about, dude? That's not real. He's like, it is real. And I was totally a jerk. I was like super skeptical. I was not open-minded, but I left that meeting and literally that night I went home and started messing around. And I was like, okay, this is real. Okay, I don't know how to use it, but this is cool. And it was only a few months later that I was at the SEMA show, which is a big automotive industry trade show that we do every year. And I was a speaker and I was there talking about PR and marketing. And there was another speaker that was there and did a whole presentation on AI. And I sat through it and she blew my mind because she's talking about AI agents and automations and all these things. And again, I walked out of there going like, that all sounds really cool, but that doesn't sound real. Like that maybe some enterprise, like giant company could maybe pay some programmers to build some sort of, chatbot thing, but like regular little companies can't use this. And again, eat my hat, within a couple of weeks, I started messing around like, nope, that's not right either. Like this is actually a real thing. But I've been exposed to it, I think, because like you, I work in marketing. I still talk to people now. Like I had one of these conversations just the other day about interviewing you about this episode. I was talking to a client and I said, hey, do you have any questions? And they didn't even know. They think that AI is just like in Google, when you do the search, there's the little like Gemini response that comes up on the top of the page. I think most people at this point, and correct me if I'm wrong or if you disagree, I think most people think it's basically like an extension of a search engine. I don't think everybody really understands what we're dealing with right now. Is that your experience in sort of the mainstream society outside of our kind of bubble of like professional marketers or no?
Yeah, maybe a few steps ahead of that. But yeah, I think there's plenty of people out there that, they see AI overview when they go to Google and do a search and they're like, oh, okay, so that's the AI thing. Or I think a lot of people have heard of ChatGPT. That doesn't mean that they've used it. Maybe they tried it a couple of times and are like, okay, whatever, and moved on. Right?
Or what I've seen is also, or they use it as like a word processor. They basically are using it as a copywriter where it's like, hey, write this memo for me or write this like employee review or something, and it'll just like spit out a document. But I don't know that everybody fully understands, A, that there's more than ChatGPT, and that B, that there's like strategic stuff you can do with these tools that is pretty amazing.
The whole thing is strategy.
So let's get into that. What does that mean? So tell us, like, give us some more background at like, what are these different platforms? What do they do? And how can they be used instead of just being used as like sort of like a copywriter in a box?
To your first point, instead of using it as a copywriter in a box, I'll tell you this. Any of these tools that you use, whether you're using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Copilot, there's other ones too, but those are kind of the most popular ones. If you're using them out of the box, you are getting mediocre at best results. Love him or hate him, Elon Musk actually was just in the news because he has an AI called Grok. He doesn't like the way it's responding to things. And so he is actually rebuilding the entire platform right now. It's a very interesting time that we're living in. Things that you can do with it. Yes, it can generate words for you out of the box. Okay. And that's the best you're going to get, words. You're not going to get words that convert. You're not going to get words that actually make people do what you want them to do. You're just going to get words that maybe sound nice together. Okay. Now, beyond the copy aspect of what you can do with it, there's so many different things. You can use it for creating internal training bots. Okay. So for example, a company has different SOPs. They have different expectations from HR. There's handbooks. There's all those things that go behind having a staff. You can actually train bots on all of that material so that when your employees have questions about whatever, they don't necessarily need to go to a human in the office and interrupt them to get that answered because they can just go to the bot and actually converse with it. Like say something like, I want to take a week off at Christmas time. Is that allowed? And it would say, yes, you are allowed to take a week off at Christmas. However, you must get your request approved by so-and-so. And to do that, you need to turn in this form by this date and yada, yada, whatever the example is, right? That's one way it can be used. Another way that a lot of our clients are using it is as an external information source. On the flip side, instead of it being used internally with employees, it's being used between a prospect or a customer or both and the company. Let's say, your company is closed at 6 p.m. and then it opens again the next day at 8 a.m. What happens for all of those people that work at night or just stay up late and try and get stuff done because their days are busy? They're not able to reach you. But with AI, they can interact with an educated bot that can answer so many questions. Depending on how you train it, it can actually funnel them through your sales process and in some cases even close a sale for you while you're sleeping.
So this is using like a chat functionality on your website? Is that what you're kind of...
Yes, it can be that. It looks different ways for different companies, but that is one version of it. Yes.
Is that what they refer to? I've heard lately in the last month or so, I've heard a lot of people talk about AI agents. Is that what that is? What is an AI agent?
An AI agent is actually a version of AI that can work autonomously. ChatGPT and those types of tools are not agents. They're what we call conversational AI. The bot will type something and you'll type something back. And then the bot will type something back. You're having a conversation with it. An agent is autonomous, meaning you give it a task and then you walk away and you come back at a later time and the task is done.
So give me an example of what that would look like in a business setting. Like what would be an example of how that could work?
Yeah, well, I can give you an example from my company on how this worked. We have a process that we've done for years with our clients. It's extremely time intensive. So much research is involved in it. It literally is something that would take a senior marketer several months to complete.
So this is like some kind of like market research, competitive research, that kind of thing.
All of that plus, 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 plus.
Like a deep dive, almost like a positioning project where you're going to the client, helping them with some sort of market research or how to gain share or something like that, right?
It's positioning, it's creating your customer journey, it's creating your funnels, it's creating so many things, right?
Okay.
So what I did was I actually created a prompt. I want to say, I don't remember the exact number of pages. I think it was like 46 or 47 pages long, which most people, if you've tried prompting, you probably use a couple sentences, right?
Yeah.
You've never seen anything like this. But in order for it to be able to do what I need it to do with the level of excellence and sophistication I'm looking for, I have to train it. Kind of like you train a human being. So I created this monster prompt and I put it into, there's different platforms you can use to create agents. The one I chose to use is called Manus. I put it into Manus. I gave it its task and then I went to sleep. And I said, I'll look forward to seeing what you've got for me in the morning. And it completed that task that would have taken me, someone who's been in marketing for 30 years, 3 to 4 months to complete. It completed it while I slept. Now, was it 100% on target? No. I still had to read through it. There were certain things I had to correct. There were certain places where I needed to redirect it. But I would say it got me 85% to the finish line, which was unbelievable. I think my mouth dropped on the floor and stayed on the floor for a good week.
I love that. And that's a great example. So with that agent, it's going out, it's doing research. I assume it's citing sources, it's pulling together some sort of a document.
The document that it created fit very snugly in a 3-inch binder.
Wow.
That's how much documentation we're talking about.
How does that differ? I'm at the point now where I use AI every day. I use it as sort of an accelerant or like an efficiency tool, kind of similar to what you're saying. Like I've had things, at this point, I've lost count of how many things I've used it for where it would have taken me hours or days and it took 10 minutes. And I definitely have never written a prompt like you just described, but I've gotten to the point where my prompts, some of them are a couple pages long, so they're decent size. How is what you just described and the platform you used and the whole AI agent thing different than a really complex prompt in like a GPT-03 and just saying like, here's the prompt, go? What is the difference? Because I don't understand sort of like I still don't get the agent thing beyond sort of a regular LLM.
That's a really good question. I would say the difference is the level of complexity and sophistication of the output that you're going to get from it. So, if you have a really well-written prompt and you're using it in one of the conversational AIs that we've talked about, you can get some pretty good stuff. But I didn't want good. I wanted my mouth dropping on the floor, right?
Right.
That's what I wanted. I was literally trying to work myself out of a job. And I was doing this in pursuit because I wanted to know how far could I push it? Like, could I really get it to do this? Because, I can write a prompt in ChatGPT that is a few pages and has a lot of detail, and I can get something and go, that's pretty good. It's not going to replace me. It requires too much oversight. I have a very high standard of excellence, right? You and I have been in this industry for many, many years. Mediocre is not acceptable, right?
No.
We demand excellence for our clients. And so I'm not going to settle for something that I know ChatGPT is going to do halfway. And the reason it's going to do halfway is because it was trained by engineers. It was not trained by marketers.
So your platform is more marketing specific as well, or at least the way you trained it.
The agent is not marketing specific at all, but I'm marketing specific, and my prompt was.
Interesting. Okay. I get that. So I'm at the point now, and for our listeners at home, I'm trying to kind of bring you guys along on this journey, right? So I guess I have 2 questions / kind of prompts for you regarding that example you just gave us. The first one is, and I don't know if you had this experience, and maybe this platform is different, but one of the things I've experienced with GPT, certainly the more you put in, the better the product and the better the result, right?
Sometimes, not always.
Yeah. But like most of my experiences have been good. Every once in a while, it just makes stuff up. Like I had an example even over the weekend where I was doing some paperwork for our bank and we were renewing our line. And hopefully I don't get in trouble by saying this out loud on a podcast, but I fixed it, guys, if you're listening. So I didn't turn in the thing I'm about to describe. But literally I'm going through like pages and pages and pages of documents and paperwork and DocuSigns. And it's like, you've been to that drill. It's horrible. And then at the very end, it's like 11 o'clock at night. I'm exhausted. I've got this whole package ready to submit to them. And I see this thing that one of the other things they want is an updated business plan. And I'm like, I am so cooked. And I've been doing paperwork for like 6 hours. It's late at night and I'm tired and it's due the next day. And I'm like, I don't have time to write a business plan. And like, hey, wait a second. I could probably use GPT for this. So I took our old business plan. I uploaded that. And I've been working in GPT on business strategy on some of the stuff that we're rolling out with new services and all that. So I already knew all that. So I wrote a pretty long prompt and said like, okay, here's our financials. Here's our P&L. Here's last year's business plan. Here, you've been helping me, GPT, with strategic thinking on all this other stuff. Can you help me? And I wrote a very, I would say probably a 400 or 500 word prompt and said like, can you just like, this is what I'm looking for. 10 seconds later, it spits out this thing. And at first glance, it reads really well. It's better than I could have done, especially that fast. It looked great. And then I get into the tables and it was totally making up numbers. And like, I have no idea where they came from. They did not come from me. I mean, I wish that was real because I'd be doing really well right now. But I'm like, this is all just like fantasy. Like, it's like coming up with all these numbers. I'm like, where did this even come from? So obviously I edited it and fixed it and submitted what I submitted and it was fine. But why does that happen? And like, is that a flaw? Is that just a thing we need to be aware of? Is that unique just to me?
It's definitely not unique just to you. That's why when you go into any of these AIs and you try to use them, they will have something that says this tool can make mistakes, right? They have a disclaimer that they put right in front of you. And then, of course, it's in the terms and conditions that nobody wants to read. It happens all the time. Why does it happen? It is partially because this is still emerging technology. It's still learning how to work right. People out there that say, oh no, it's conscious, it can do all these things. I am not on that train, right? But a lot of people are. What it's capable of right now, I kind of think of it as like a word puzzle solutionist. I just made up a title for it. It puts together word patterns, right? And if it doesn't have a pattern that makes sense, it makes one up because it is kind of like a dog. It just wants to make you happy, right? And you tell a dog to sit when it's a little puppy, you tell it to sit, it'll jump up, it'll turn in circles, it'll lay down, it'll sit, it'll do all the things just waiting for you to say, good dog. It doesn't really understand what sit means until it gets a lot of training. Same thing with any of these tools, right? So it's just like, oh, okay, you want a business plan? Great. Somewhere along the way, I'm not going to have the information that I need, or I'm going to have partial information, but I just want to make it sound better. So I'm going to hallucinate and make stuff up and throw it in there, and I'm going to present it to you with all the confidence in the world.
So it's a marketer.
Yes.
Just
So you're
fill
gonna
in the
look at
gaps
it.
with a little bit of bullshit and call it good, right? That's okay.
Exactly. You're going to look at it and you're going to be like, holy crap, this is amazing. This is why it is so absolutely critical to have human supervision over all AI outputs. If I can warn your listeners of one thing, it's this. If you are copying and pasting what you're getting from any of these tools and you are not reading it, you are taking a huge risk. Huge. And I strongly urge you to stop doing it that way. It needs human oversight.
So that leads to my second question about your example, which is one that I think about a lot, and I would love your perspective on this, is in my experience, the more you put in to the prompt and in the training, and even especially if you have like a walled garden, it's even better, right? The better and the more nuanced the response or the work you're going to get. And certainly if you've never used ChatGPT before in your life or Claude or any of them, and you fire it up and just say, make me a business plan, God only knows what you're going to get back. But if this is a platform you've been working in for 6 months, 12 months, if it has access to a server full of content, if you've trained it, and then you write a really sophisticated prompt, you're probably going to get something pretty good back. It's somewhere, there's a blurry line in there, to me anyway, that you've crossed at that point where it's like, okay, this is as much a result of your training as it is of the LLM. With all that in mind, so you've got this thing that would have taken 6 months, however long you said, multiple months of work, and it did it for you overnight, and then you obviously have to go in and edit it. Do you disclose that to the client that you used AI to work on it, or is it a non-issue because it was your work product in the first place?
No, I absolutely disclose everything.
Okay.
I think that's really important. I think transparency is critical at this stage with all of this because, if you don't have your client's trust, you're not going to have a client for very long, right?
That's right. Yep.
So yeah, no, absolutely. I disclose that I am using AI in all kinds of different ways. It's in my agreements that they sign. I want to make sure that they understand I'm using this technology and there are some inherent risks to it. My ideal client is okay with those risks. Not everybody is. And that's not my ideal client.
I totally get that. So I guess that leads to another question, which is where does IP fit in all of this conversation? And kind of on both ends. So like, I told some people months ago that I've been I built a walled garden for our company, kind of similar to the example you gave earlier where you were talking about that kind of HR tool. We did one with a client that's a racing series, and they have several rule books. They have rule books for drivers. They have rule books for the chassis manufacturers. They're complicated. They're not always easy to understand. So we helped them build a walled garden where we uploaded all this content, bless you, including not just their rule books, but a lot of background documents and media coverage, all this other stuff. And we created a GPT where race teams or drivers could just go in and say like, hey, this is the class I'm competing in and I want to build this race car. Is this allowed? Is that allowed? And it's conversational now without having to read it. So I totally see the value in all of that. Is there a concern on the user end that like, if I'm feeding it all this content, I assume that you're kind of essentially giving it permission to use the content that is your IP that you have fed it. And on the flip side, if you're using it to create content, like I know a lot of people, and we're not doing this, but I know other agencies that do, that are using ChatGPT or even some like Sora to create elements for social media for clients. They're using it for content. I've even seen ads that were created in AI. So I guess on that's the flip side of the same question, which is, can you use the content it creates as your IP? So how does intellectual property play into all this? And are there rules yet? Or is it just sort of like a free-for-all right now?
This is another thing that is literally evolving by the day. I will tell you that this surprised a lot of people. And let me preface this by saying I'm not an attorney, okay?
Right. Oh, yeah.
So this is not legal advice, anybody. This is just what I have learned as an AI expert, right? So there's my disclaimer. With IP, anything that you give to AI is up for grabs. I don't care if it promises you privacy. I don't believe it. I wouldn't believe it for a second. And here's why. The New York Times is in an active case right now suing OpenAI, ChatGPT. They use the New York Times content to train their models, so they're stealing their work. This case has been going on for a while. However, just a couple of weeks ago, there was a big wake-up call with all of this because a federal judge ruled that OpenAI had to retain every user chat, even after they told us things were private. Even after, you thought you deleted the chat, you thought it was gone. Not really gone. You can't see it, but that doesn't mean it's really gone. We're all hoping that it means that, just the attorneys that are involved in the case and proving this case, whatever, those are going to be the only people that have access to this information. However, my biggest concern is not necessarily what happens in this case. It's the precedent it sets for AI moving forward. It's the precedent of, okay, well, one judge ruled that OpenAI had to retain all user chats. What does that mean in the future? I think the biggest caution flag here, use the tools. They're amazing. They're great. I use AI all day, every day. However, I do not put sensitive information into it. For example, when I was building that agent with that 4-month work project, I did not name the company that it was working with. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
And I won't. I'll say company XYZ. And then when I'm doing my human editing, I'll go back and actually enter
find and replace. Okay.
Right? Now, I'll look up their competitors for sure, but their competitors aren't my clients. Right? When you said that you were putting your financials in there for your business plan, I'm like, oh no.
Okay. Good to know. Don't do that. Like one of the things I read is that Sam Altman, who owns or is the CEO, I guess not owns, but is the CEO of OpenAI and ChatGPT, has a pretty significant stake in Reddit. And I have heard that they're using Reddit chats to train that platform. Their former chief technology officer who left and has started a new company since, she had kind of a controversial interview about 6 months ago or 8 months ago where the interviewer, it was like some TV talk show type thing. And they were asking her like, well, with some of the video creation technology they're working on, like how are you training it on YouTube and on social? And at first she kind of like dodged it and like wouldn't answer the question. And then they kind of pushed. And she sort of very begrudgingly admitted that they're basically scraping Instagram. When I have these conversations with clients, and your point is well taken about me uploading my P&L, I probably should not have done that. But I do have clients that say, well, I don't want to share any of our content on this platform because that's our IP. And I go, well, but you have social channels for your company, right? Like you have an Instagram page because we run it for you, right? You have a Facebook page, you have a YouTube page. And I think there's a bit of a disconnect on the B2B side of this whole thing where it's like, you don't own any of those platforms. And the second you upload a piece of content to Instagram, Meta, I mean, again, people don't read the terms and conditions, right? You just gave Meta permission to use your content, at least for me. And I'm curious if you have a different perspective. Like, it doesn't seem like it's that different. Like you're still giving a big tech company permission to use your stuff, right?
Yeah, I think privacy went out the window the day the internet became mainstream. So
This is a good point.
I think a lot of people have a false sense of privacy, right? And they think that things are really can't be cracked. I don't believe it for a second. I have a friend who's actually one of the pioneers in the AI space. He's been in the industry for 45 years. You've heard of like Nelson ratings?
Yeah.
He created that technology.
Oh,
Okay.
for TV, like the,
Yeah.
oh, okay. All right.
Like a legit, he's like the real deal. He's like,
That was like back in the old days, that was like a box. They're like,
I know.
you'd have to put on your TV. Okay.
I know. I call him the godfather of AI because he was in this before any of us were. And I had a conversation with him one day about privacy with all these tools. He just looked at me and shook his head, just went like, Stephanie, nothing is private. And I said, yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. He goes, even your banking stuff. When you go to your bank website and you see that little key icon, he's like, it's private to people who don't know what they're doing, but anybody who does. And I was like, oh, really? Now that I didn't know. And that was slightly unsettling, but it's just the way it is, you know?
Well, I think unfortunately, as technology progresses, we are trading privacy for convenience. And I mean, we all have these little computers we keep in our pockets that, used to be a phone and now they're this other thing,
and they listen to us.
They listen to you. And we've all had that experience. By the way, we sell a lot of digital marketing here. And I've gone to my head of digital marketing at my agency and said, can you explain to me how it works that I talk about how like I want to get a fountain for my backyard. And then for the next week and a half, all I'm getting in my feed is ads for fountain companies. And he's like, I can tell you that we participate in it. I cannot tell you how it works. He's like, it's a black box. They don't share. We don't know. I just put in the targeting and it does the rest. And it's definitely listening. So yeah, I think you're probably right. Well, taking a step back, because we've gotten a little bit into the weeds here, and that's my fault because I have so many questions for you, but let's kind of go back up to 10,000 feet for a minute. For business, it was business operators, business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are listening, where are some practical entry points for them to start using this technology to help their business?
I think the best place to start is actually by identifying where your bottlenecks are, figuring out, like just sitting down with your team and being, what are the bottlenecks in our company that are slowing us down the most, that are costing us the most money, that are taking too much manpower, but we really need them, right? They're not dispensable. We really need them, but it's just too intensive of what it requires. Once you identify some of those things, then it's looking at, okay, what AIs are out there that could help us mitigate the loss that we're currently incurring. There are thousands of AIs out now, and there's more coming out every single day to do everything. Like right before we were actually recording this podcast this morning, I cloned myself. I literally created a video and voice clone of myself so that I can start a new YouTube channel. And it's going to be what's called a faceless YouTube channel. It will be me. It will be my likeness. It will be my voice, but it will not be me in front of the camera. I will give it a script. AI will do the rest. It looks exactly like me. It looks totally real.
What platform does that?
There's a few different ones. I used a combination of two platforms. I used one called 11 Labs to dial in my voice because that's really the marketplace leader at this point. And then I used one called HeyGen to create my visual likeness. And then, using API keys and all the nerdy stuff behind the scenes, and I merged it together. And
you can combine them.
You sure
Wow.
can. HeyGen has something that supposedly will create a voice, but I think it's kind of awful. So I was like, that doesn't sound like me. If you wanted an AI avatar, you just want a likeness of someone who doesn't really exist, these tools can create those in a snap. And they can give it all kinds of voices. You want it to have the voice, a voice like James Earl Jones, or you want it to have a voice like Fran Drescher, or, anybody who has these really kind of extreme voices, you can get it to dial in voices that are very similar to all of those. But I wanted it because I need to multiply my time. There's so much content today in today's world that needs to be produced. And yet we need to be doing work for clients that's revenue generating. So if I'm sitting here and I have members of my team that are trying to create all this content, whether it's social or emails or sales pages or websites or short form videos, it just takes so much time. It's important. It needs to be done. But my word, it's expensive and time consuming. So that's why I chose to do this. So now, wow. I'm going to blow up YouTube with a whole bunch of new content on a new channel, and I can't wait to see what happens. I have a friend who actually did this a year ago, and it was actually almost a year ago to the date. Actually, that's kind of funny. She's an AI futurist. That's what she's called. She did this almost a year ago. Well, this is a crazy story. It was last July. We were talking on the phone one day, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think she said something like, I've got like 19,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I said, oh my gosh, that's great, girlfriend. Way to go. And she goes, no, this is not good enough. I got to get to 100,000. And I was like, okay, all right. Well, hey, game on. How are you going to do that? And she's like, well, I've just been busting out content to get to 19,000. I'm creating this AI avatar. And I said, are you really? I'm curious to know what the quality is going to be like. Okay, well, she ended up creating it and, had to dial it in. It took some work to dial it in and get it right. Fast forward to January of this year, and she came down with a horrible, horrible sickness that has had her in bed 4 months, unable to work. She's got this huge YouTube channel. She still had her goal to get to 100,000 subscribers, but she was very sick and unable to do what you would normally do to get there, right?
Oh, man.
Here comes the power of having this avatar already created. She started feeding it scripts more and more, dialed it in on the spot. Her AI clone has been running that YouTube channel ever since. When I looked at it in March, it was at something like 900,000 views of their videos.
Wow.
It's all an avatar. And she's very straightforward. She's very transparent. She says, she doesn't even call it herself. She says, hi, I'm Dr. McCoy, Julia's AI avatar, here to talk to you about blah, blah, blah. She's had amazing things happen. Like the Dr. Phil show called her recently. They found her on YouTube. The Dr. Phil show called her and said, we want to have you come on and be our AI expert. She's getting great opportunities from a faceless YouTube channel.
And there's no uncanny valley situation where people are turned off by it. They don't care. They're watching the content. Clearly, if 1 million people have watched it.
I mean, tons of people are watching it. Yeah, there's always going to be people out there that are like, I can see that your eyes aren't blinking at a normal ratio. but there's 913 million other people who really appreciate it.
Just kind of switching gears, we've talked a lot about marketing. And earlier in the conversation, you did talk about how there's a possibility to have an AI tool, agent, bot, whatever, that, can engage with a consumer, maybe even close a sale, which is cool. Beyond marketing, what are some other ways businesses can use some of these AI tools for whether it's process improvement, strategy, ideation? Just kind of give us the primer. What can they be doing? What should they be doing? How can these things be a useful tool in business, especially for small businesses?
Well, I will tell you, I'm an AI marketing specialist, so that's where I focus. I don't know a whole lot outside of the marketing space about capabilities, but I can tell you anything in operations can probably benefit from having different AIs. There's one AI that I use to create SOPs for my company. SOPs are a pain in the backside to write. Okay. I was trying to create these, and then I had somebody on my team that was creating them, and it's just mind-numbing work. But it's important work, right? I found an AI, it said, log in, do what you do on your computer every day, and we'll take care of the rest. So I just went through a normal process that I have, something that, it could be literally anything that I can do on my computer. I went through a normal process. That AI was watching everything I did, took deep specific notes and screenshots and said, step 1, log in here. Step 2, click this button. Step 3, enter this information. It created over 100 SOPs for my company.
So it was like watching in the background as you're going about the process of doing whatever the task or job was. Was that like a specific platform, or was that one of the general sort of LLMs?
No. That was a specific platform that's designed for that. So this is one thing is like sometimes people are like, oh, well, ChatGPT can do everything, right? No, it can't. ChatGPT is really good at a certain subset of tasks, and it's really bad at other things.
How do people tell the difference? Because one of the things as I've kind of gotten deeper into this, I'm constantly screwing around trying to figure these different tools out. And some of them have been great. And some of them, at least in my experience, have been kind of a scam where you sign up for something and you think it's going to do something and it doesn't really do it. How do they know what to look for so they don't get taken advantage of? Or is there a resource they can go to read reviews and learn like, hey, this is a good fit for this isn't, this thing doesn't actually do what they say it does, this one does? How do they approach that, and how do you do that?
Yeah, well, the way that I do it, this is my life. This is what I do all day, every day. So I'm in a community with trusted experts. We're talking about what's working, right? We're masterminding about it on a daily basis. But for people that aren't in something like that, I would say find people who are and follow them and get their recommendations. I'm on TikTok. I share a lot of stuff on TikTok for free. I give away a lot of tips and tools that can really help somebody, and it doesn't cost them anything. My new YouTube channel that I'm going to be starting is going to have a lot of this too. There are a lot of leading names. I can tell you some people I like to follow. Matt Wolf is one guy that I like to follow, and he actually has a database of AI tools that you can search and find a tool that might be a good fit for you. Matt went from being just another agency owner to being this huge YouTube phenomenon, all because of AI. He's got this enormous following, but he really knows what he's talking about. So yeah, I get a lot from Matt Wolf. I get stuff from Mark DeGrasse. He used to be the president of Digital Marketer. I get a lot of stuff from Julia McCoy. That's the one who has the Dr. McCoy avatar.
So then you follow these folks on LinkedIn, you follow them on YouTube or TikTok, or just kind of anywhere they are?
I follow them on different social channels, but we're also friends. Okay. Because of the nature of the work that I do, right? So we speak on a lot of stages together and stuff like that.
Do you think AI is going to create more opportunity or disruption for small and mid-sized businesses, especially in the marketing space?
Both. Honestly, I think the opportunity is enormous, and I think it's very disruptive. It's going to require people to really get outside of their comfort zone.
Well, I have a question that's very selfish. How is this going to affect agencies?
Great question. I think it's already started to affect agencies, and I'm the perfect case study. Literally 6 weeks after ChatGPT came out, I had clients that I had been writing copy for forever that were like, I kind of played with this thing and I'm wondering how much I need you. And of course, I had all my reasons why they still need me. But a lot of agencies have gone out of business because they don't want to adapt. They don't want to learn the AI. For a lot of us marketers, this is our art. This is our love and our hearts. We take it personally. I think the companies that stay in that place, I don't think they have a future. I really don't. And that's why I made the pivot so early on. I lived through the change when the internet became a thing. We've been here before, and we know what happened to the people who refused to adapt, who are like, I'm not going to use that .com thing. I'm fine with my notepad and pencil. We know what happened to them.
Yep.
It's kind of like either get on board or say bye-bye, I think.
That's right. My listeners have heard this story, so I won't repeat it at length, but I was an account director at an agency before Con Media 20 years ago, and I wrote a business plan at night about how we needed to lean into Web 2, right as that was becoming a thing.
Mhm.
and social media and comment sections and interactive web. And I was pretty proud of it and said, hey, like this is the future. We're going to make a lot of money here, but we got to hire a video team. We got to hire more writers. We got to hire photographers. Like we got to get into the content business. And the principal of the agency was polite. He at least took it and I think read it. And then he came back to me a week later and said, yeah, this is all bullshit. Like the internet's not that big of a deal. Magazines and TV are not going anywhere.
That's funny.
Yeah. And I sat with that for about a month and then decided to start my company all the way back then. And his agency doesn't exist anymore. So I think you're right. I have some questions, if you're okay with a few of these. I actually went to our listeners and told them you'd be coming on, and a few people submitted questions for you. So the first one's from Brian LeBaron, and he said, I'm looking forward to this. How do you create authenticity in an AI-driven world?
I love that question so much that I wrote a book on it. I'm not kidding you. I wrote a book about, is it even possible, challenging the question, is it even possible to be authentic in a world that's driven by AI? And I've been studying this over the last 2.5 years that I've been in this space. And I believe it absolutely is, with certain parameters plugged into your process. So was it Brian? Is that the name of the book?
Brian, yep.
Yeah. So Brian, honestly, I'm going to tell you, this is a whole book of an answer. So I'm not sure I can give you a quick enough answer in this podcast right now, aside from you really need to read my book.
What's the book called?
It's called Sizzle or Fizzle.
I like it. And it's on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Yeah. And you can get it as an audiobook read by AI, of course, or you can get a printed version.
We're going to call that one a Brian, you got to buy the book.
Sorry, Brian. If I could spit it out shorter, I would, but that's a big question.
No, this is good. I have another one. So Rafi Garbushian asks, I'd like to hear predictions on AGI and also the impact of AI on content marketing. And if you could touch on the copyright issues from AI and AI image generators on content marketing, I would like to know more.
AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. Try and say that 5 times fast. I will tell you that it is the concept that AI can think and reason and learn, okay? Which is something that some people believe and some people do not believe. AGI is tools that can do these things, right? Whether it's like writing text or creating images or creating code or creating videos, whatever. But as of right now, nobody, to my knowledge, has actually built a true AGI yet. Not Google, not Elon Musk, not OpenAI. A true AGI does not exist. When it does come, it's not going to just be, like you said, a copywriter in a box kind of thing. This is going to be an autonomous agent unlike anything the world has ever seen before.
Turing talked about that, I think, in like the 40s or the 50s, right? That was what the whole Turing test was all about. Because even what we have now, Groks and Soras and all that, those are basically an algorithm, right? It's an algorithm with a lot of data behind it. What AGIs are, in my understanding, is, like you said, it's an actual reasoning machine, which is different.
It's not just like recognizing, remember earlier in the conversation I was saying like puts words together like a puzzle? AGI doesn't do that. AGI supposedly actually thinks.
Well, and Rafi he kind of jammed together a couple of questions. So putting the AGI thing aside for a minute, I do think there's another question in here about sort of the impact of AI image generators on content marketing. And I am curious to get your perspective on that. We had a client early on in the AI thing. This was probably 2 years ago. They had been a longtime client. We did all their digital marketing for them, and they had gone through multiple private equity flips, and we had done a really good job for them, and we'd won a bunch of awards for their campaigns, and we were getting them consistently over 1,000% ROAS. And then they had a new CMO come in, and one of the first things she did was she showed us the door, and she brought in some overseas marketing shop that charged a lot less money, and they replaced all of our copy and all of our imagery and all their advertising. This was, again, early days of AI, right? So if you remember those early AI generated images, they all looked weird. Like people had like 7 fingers and one of them was growing out of their elbow. And like, it was that kind of stuff. And we just watched their numbers just fall off a cliff. Today, not that much long, 2 years later, some of the stuff I've seen coming out of the image generators like Sora looks pretty much photorealistic. So,
they're great now.
Is that an issue? Is it good? Is there any data that shows that people either prefer or dislike advertising content that's generated by AI? Where are we at today with that?
I'm sure there is data. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but I'm sure there is stuff on that. What I can tell you when it comes to the whole copyright thing, in the US at this time, AI generated work is not copyright protected. And it's so gray. This is where it gets concerning. It's so gray that it will say something along the lines of it has to have a certain amount of human involvement. But who decides how much is enough human involvement? Is that a judge? Is that the Elon Musks and the Sam Altmans of the world? Is that you? Is that me? Who makes that decision? It is a questionable territory.
Interesting. Okay. Well, and that kind of leads to the last question I had, which actually comes from a teammate of mine named Diana Brennan. And her question was, what are the biggest risks people in business need to be aware of when they start integrating AI into their process, into their business?
The biggest risk, hands down, is letting it be a free-for-all and letting people just use it and experiment and play and figure out what works, because they don't know what they don't know. Just like you didn't know that entering financial information is actually dangerous. People don't know what they don't know. And so you've got to have policies about how it will be used in your company and protections set up. I think if you're going to be using it with clients, I don't think there's any reason to keep secrets about this. I think that every company, though, needs to make their own decision on where they stand there. I'm all about transparency, radical transparency. That's what I feel like builds real relationships with people. You probably need to have your legal team looking over your contracts and inserting verbiage where you may be using AI to assist with certain aspects of the product or service that you offer. Those two things, if you had policies about how it's going to be used by your staff, and then you had legal approved documentation that your clients are seeing and signing, those are the two biggest things that you can do to avoid getting into some potentially very hairy, scary situations.
Good insight. Should people use AI to write their AI policy, or is that dangerous too?
No, a lot of people have done that. A lot of people have done that. But if you don't know what you don't know, how are you going to know if it's hallucinating and doing anything useful?
Right. Well said.
So that's when you need a human AI expert on your team coming in and helping you.
Got it. Okay. So, Stephanie, what's Bot Boss? Tell us about that.
The Bot Boss is a software that was created because the results that we're seeing from ChatGPT and friends are so mediocre. And because everybody is starting to sound the same, it's just regurgitated stuff. It used to be the word delve and harness and unlocked when it first came out, that you started seeing those words everywhere. Now the unlocked of July 2025 is the word fluff. You're going to see it everywhere. Just look for the word fluff. Look for it on social media and in your emails. All of a sudden, everyone is using the word fluff. Observing these things, we actually trained some AI bots to write like seven-figure copywriters do, because we are seven-figure copywriters. So we trained them on our processes instead of, just being trained to scrape what other people have done here and there and whatever. The Bot Boss, you can go into it, and if you need to write social media content, you need to write emails, you need to write video sales letters, sales pages, pretty much any of the mainstream marketing assets, the Bot Boss will ask you what you need to create, and then it will ask you about 5 questions, sometimes 6, sometimes 4. Then these questions are about your specific company and your specific clients that you're trying to attract. You'll answer those questions, and it will spit back copy at you that is top level, absolute top level. And design it. All of the training is based on campaigns that have already converted millions of dollars. So it's not like putting words together that sound nice like ChatGPT. It's putting words together that have already made people a lot of money.
So you basically trained and built your own AI platform to help people with these tasks. And then I can have like a bunch of M dashes and all, like you said, all those weird tells that are like trending every month.
Well, here's the thing. I'm a copywriter by trade, right? That's what I've done my whole career. The M dash is a beautiful punctuation mark.
I love the M dash. And now because I write my my own stuff. I wrote a book too, and it's full of M dashes. And now I'm like super sensitive about it. Every time I put up a post on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh God, I got to take that out.
I know. I'm so sad that the word around the street is that the M dash is AI because,
Yeah.
oh man, the M dash is my friend.
I'm a chronic abuser of M dashes, so
I
I don't
am
know.
terrible.
I
And the
don't want.
ellipse. That's another
I don't.
one.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
chronic. Need medical attention. Yes.
I've really enjoyed this. I've learned so much. One more question for you, and it's one we ask every guest on the show. Unfortunately, for better or for worse, I learn most of my lessons through breaking things and messing things up and then saying, okay, don't do that again. That's unfortunately the way I learn. It's the way a lot of other entrepreneurs I know learn. So my question is, as you think back on your career, either before this AI pivot or during, what is the biggest mistake you made and what did you learn from it?
Ooh, the biggest mistake I've made throughout my career. Well, I'll be honest, because what I do is so much a part of who I am as a person, I've let my heart get in the way more than it should at times in my company. And it has clouded my judgment in making sound business decisions at times that I have later had to pay the price for. For example, a team member that really shouldn't be on the team anymore, but I couldn't bring myself to let them go because I knew what the consequences would mean in their lives. It's like that struggle between being heart-centered and wanting to care for your staff, but caring for them more than you're caring for the business. And then that creates a big volcano. That's probably been one of the biggest lessons I've learned. I'm still trying to balance that one out.
I can relate to that. I
Yeah.
was going to ask if that's something you've solved. It sounds like you're still working on it.
I'm still working on it. I think when you're a heart-centered person, when you care about people and they're not just tools, like my employees have never been tools. They're really important to me. I invest in them and they invest in me. I think when you feel that way, it's a lot different than working for this big company that an employee is just a number, cut them loose if they're not performing, right? It's a very different relationship.
I have that issue as well, so I can relate. Well said. Well, Stephanie, before we wrap up, where can folks go to connect with you, learn from you, find your books, learn more about your company?
Oh, thanks for asking. If you want to take a look at the Bot Boss, you'll find that at ai.SizzleForce.com. If you are interested in some consulting for your company, the main website is SizzleForce.com. Sizzle like bacon, force like may the force be with you. If you want to get some free advice, you can follow me on TikTok if you're not anti-TikTok. Soon you'll be able to follow me on my new YouTube channel, but I don't know what it is yet. And my book is on Amazon. Again, it's called Sizzle or Fizzle.
I like it. Very good. Well, thank you again, Stephanie, for coming on the show and sharing so much knowledge with us. We really appreciate it, and I know the listeners do too. To everyone listening, if this helped spark ideas or give you a new way to think about what's possible in your business, please do us a favor and subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. We'll catch you on the next episode of Only the Strong Survive.